Hello and welcome to episode 1163 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, April 14th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
Not too bad. I know it's very early over there, relatively early here, but ready to kick off a nice Friday. How are your teams doing?
My teams are still doing fairly well. My auction championship team is first place in my league and fourth or fifth place overall. You start getting that feeling, man. Like, oh man,
What if?
what if? But like,
What
it's
if?
still way too early. Like, just like it doesn't really matter. It just makes you feel good that your teams are doing well. How
Yeah,
about you? How are your teams doing?
banking good stats early on. My teams are terrible. No,
Hmm.
it's a mixed bag, you know. Funnily enough, I got some gladiators that are doing all right, and I say funnily enough because the one that's doing the best, like that sucker's dead. There's just no way it's gonna hang on, but it is off to a really good start right now. But I got like Rysel Iglesias on there, so I'm not getting saves from him. Obviously, Newt Bar, Urias, Cody Morris on the 60-day IL. He was my last pick, just kind of like a gamble. So yeah, it's funny when stuff like that happens. But my main event, my TGFBI, still grinding. I'm out of like the Uber seller of the main event overall. Like if you scroll all the way down to the page, you can't see me, right?
Ooh.
Like you have to scroll back up a little bit to find me at 770. And again, listen, this sounds like I'm calling these people out. I'm not. It just makes me feel better about myself. Lindy Hinkleman down at 790. If he can be down there, why can't a scrub like me? So the team's been playing a bit better, but it is like two steps forward, one step back type of deal. Get some good offense, and then Chris Sale pitches, you know?
Mhm.
So we'll see how it goes, but at least Lucas Giolito look good. I'm not going to run down my whole team. I'm not worried. You know, we talked a few different times over the course of last year about how I lamented to you where I was in June, you know, well beyond
Mhm.
here, like down at the bottom. Like, this is still a pretty good team, dude. I don't understand why it's doing so crappy. And ended up getting back up and at least being in the mix there until Kyle Gibson ruined it. So there's plenty of time, still grinding. And Franchi Week has worked. Picked him up because of the big righty barrage that the Yankees were facing. He hit two homers, like 2 homers, 4 ribbies from a pickup. He doesn't have to do anything else even. I'd love if he
Yeah.
has a nice weekend, but you get that from a $21 pickup out of 1,000 fab. Like you don't need any more. So I'm already pretty happy about that. But let's get into some stuff here. We got some news to talk about. Some of it's bad, folks. I'm sorry. And then we'll get into the two starts. Jeffrey Springs, he had to come out ulnar neuritis. I believe I'm saying that correctly.
Mhm.
Sounds heinous, you know, stuff like that. Some of the medical terms for things always make it sound like exponentially worse than it is. I'm led to believe by reading some things that that's not quite as bad as maybe it sounds, but it's not good either. And when he threw the pitch and came out, it was like he kind of looked down and I was hoping it was like his hand. He's looking at his hand for like a fingernail or a blister because then that's like okay, might be some time off just for it to heal, but no big deal. But then on the second replay, you could see he was looking at his arm, and then it was like oh boy, here we go, forearm, and you know kind of like doing shaking it out type of thing. So it's not good. He is headed to the IL. I mean, they haven't said for sure, but I have to believe.
I mean, it all depends on what the imaging. So I did a little bit
Okay.
of research because I was like, I don't know what this is. I want to know what it is. So ulnar neuritis is kind of like it's like when you hit your funny bone, right? Like that's
Oh,
the I mean that is
that
the
horrendous
activation
feeling.
of that nerve. Um, and so that's what he was feeling, and he was trying to like work it out of it, by
Because
like
that's a
pumping his hand.
terrible feeling. I
Exactly.
hate that feeling.
So I mean, it all comes down to what was causing it. Is it inflammation that was causing it? Is it a torn UCL that's causing it? We won't know until we get an MRI. So
Okay. So not
it could,
necessarily head to the IL.
yeah, it could be nothing, or it could be something really, really bad. So I think we're just gonna have to wait. I'm assuming the MRI will come today, and we'll have more information the next day or two. It would not surprise me if he hit the IL, even just as a precautionary measure.
especially with a team like the Rays, who are known for being cautious. They're not going to push anything too crazily.
Yeah, so I would expect Taj Bradley to be back up pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
so that's the thing. Taj Bradley came up. We were going to talk about him anyway, even though he had been sent down. Obviously, we had to talk about his debut. Big time prospect. Came up, pitched well, goes immediately back down. My guess is probably the standard fifth starter thing where it's like, okay, he could come back later anyway, but because they didn't need a fifth starter next week, we'll see what happens. So he could be turning right back around from Durham and coming right back up. Struck out 8, allowed 3 runs over 5 innings. I like that he made it 5 innings too because he hadn't really been pitching all that deep in his minor league starts. So I was like, oh, well, we'll see what happens here with Taj Bradley. What did you think of the start? And then we'll talk about how we feel about him this weekend. Obviously, that's going to be difficult to pin down a number until we know if Jeffrey Springs is on the IL. But what did you think of Taj Bradley's debut?
I thought it was pretty impressive. I don't think the ERA, it's a 5.40 ERA for that one start. I don't think that's really reflective of how good he looked. He just kind of got dinked and dunked a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, his question has always kind of been command, or at least has been command the last couple of years. He was widely considered one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, and then last year had a little bit of a homer problem in AAA, so that kind of hurt his stock a little bit.
It seemed like the classic though with Bradley. To fix my control, I'm just going to kind of live in the zone, and maybe it'll cause a little bit of a home run issue because it is like fixing the command. And again, we talk about the differences between command and control. He showed more control last year, maybe lost a little bit of that command. Now he's trying to put it all together, and it could be magic because he can miss a ton of bats. He looks great. I mean, he's got that. He's got kind of the Chris Archer swag. That was the vibe that I got from him. Of just like he knows he's good, right? Early career Archer knew he was good. Went out there, had the confidence, and Bradley looked great. Again, hard to know exactly where we're going to be with bids. So let's start with if Jeffrey Springs goes to the IL. Where are you at on Taj Bradley in 12 and 15 team leagues with your bids? Probably 2 separate bids, but where are you at on Bradley with an IL stint for Springs?
Oh man, it's hard because it depends on what kind of IL stint it is. Like, is this a end of the season IL stint? Because then I think triple digits comes into play. If it's like, hey, it's just a little bit of inflammation, I think I'm probably in the $50-$60 range out of $1,000. I'm really trying to stay away from the triple digit bids though, but this is one where it could become really, really valuable, especially because of the strikeouts and just how good of the team the Rays are. Like,
they're awesome.
Are you going to have a better, potential to win games on any other team than the Rays?
They don't lose.
And
they
haven't
literally
lost.
do not lose. What a run, by the way, too. Like, I don't care that they started with a bunch of crummy teams. That happens every year. Some team gets to play crappy teams, and we don't see 13-0 every year. So just enjoy it. Like, it is objectively cool. I don't want to get caught up in like, well, they played this team. Who cares? Who cares? And then they're beating the Red Sox now too, right? So it's like the Red Sox aren't a terrible team. They're not the best, but like they can beat any team. We knew they were a good team coming in. They did take advantage of their schedule. They played who's in front of them. And starting 13-0 is objectively cool. We don't see a team run out this big every year, so it's not as simple as the schedule. They're great. So, okay, let's say there is no IL stint for Springs, but Bradley comes back because they don't want to start Josh Fleming or something. Or let's just say he doesn't come back yet. He doesn't come back this weekend. Are you 50-60 at that point with Bradley? Are you more of like 30
probably more 30, maybe 40 max.
This is out of 1,000, by the way.
I think you should still put bids in on him, even if it looks like Springs isn't going to the IL, because I think Bradley's going to be back, and I think he's good enough where he can force his way to stick into that rotation long term.
Because even if Eflin comes right back, Fleming, I mentioned Fleming specifically because he should not be holding out Taj Bradley from a consistent spot. And so I think even if they send him back down because of the fifth starter thing, once they see that Bradley is the dude, and like Fleming's core skills have been fine. He has a 4.58 BABIP. That's kind of hurting him. I'm not saying that he's the 6.43 ERA that we've seen, but I also don't think he should keep Taj Bradley out of a rotation spot.
Yeah, I don't either. So I know Tampa Bay tends to be really conservative with their young guys, especially their young pitching, but I also think they may start. Yeah, they're going to get swept up in this 13-0 type start
Hey,
to begin with. Like,
jump on it, man.
like
Still a tough division.
Yeah, this is not a team that is going to always have shots at World Series because of their payroll. So, like, if you got a shot like this, why not have your best team up? Like, why not have guys like Taj Bradley, Kyle Manzardo, and Curtis Mead on this major league team? If this is really a year where they could take a real run at this, so
they don't need those hitters right now. I
don't.
I'm not sure that Manzardo gets to make much of an impact this year. I mean, we'll see what happens with injuries. It's nothing against him. He's already raking again at AAA, and being right there knocking on the door. It's just like they're such a good team. They have quality bench players even, and a lot of their guys are raking right now. Curtis Mead's a really interesting guy, but Isaac Paredes is doing fine. Who's been great is Brandon Lau, and I love it. He looks healthy.
Oh my God, yeah.
He's on his game again.
It's like 5 home runs in like last 6 games.
Yeah,
that's a bummer for me because I've always been a big Brandon Lau fan.
You didn't buy back in?
I had a hard time with the back issue. Like, there was so little news about it. Like,
yeah,
it was really a hope and a prayer that he was healthy.
It was just one of those where it's like, I mean, he's playing, we're not seeing anything to the negative on him. And it's like, if you like Brandon Lau, you buy back in that he's ready to come back. So I don't know. I got him in some winter leagues like Draft Champions, Gladiator. Nothing crazy. I wish I could have gotten him in the main, of course, because he's killing it. But I like that Brandon Lau is back and smoking. He's got to stay healthy too, right? He's stayed healthy for these games, but we don't know that that's going to guarantee him a 6-month run of health. But it is good. So Taj Bradley, be careful not to get too caught up in the bids. And I think things will probably get a bit out of hand if Springs goes to the IL, and it's like, yes, he looked great, or looked pretty good, and yes, he can be great during the given year, but I don't think that he's necessarily like a quote-unquote league winner. First off, there aren't many guys who actually are a league winner. We throw that term around a lot too, and I just don't know that Taj Bradley for a 5 and dive, even if he is consistently up, would necessarily be somebody who would win you your league. If you need pitching, sure, be in on
doesn't
him.
need pitching right now. I mean, like,
yeah, that's the thing.
So many guys hurt,
and there's nothing on the IL.
Yeah,
on the waiver wire, I should say. It's like it is sparse, especially in 15 teamers. Let's talk about Orlando Arcia. Fractured wrist. This sucks. Obviously, he's going to be going to the IL for a good bit, and Vaughn Grissom is going to be coming up for the first time this year, but coming back to the team. With Arcia, I think you can go ahead and cut him in situations where you don't have many IL spots. If you have a free one, even if it's like a 3 IL, sure, go ahead and hold him if you want. But it's almost certain that Grissom's going to be coming back. It actually isn't official yet, so of course stay tuned. But he was held out of Thursday's lineup, and that of course fueled all the speculation that he will be the guy who's called up to cover for Arcia. With Vaughn Grissom possibly coming back up, he's held on to in a lot of leagues, so there isn't going to be a ton of Vaughn Grissom availability. Are you ready to buy in on Vaughn Grissom? I would imagine that he's going to play. Like, even though they had the concerns about him as the everyday shortstop, and that's why he didn't win the job, they're not calling him up to not play him, right? Do you think Erie Adrianza is going to be, like the full-time shortstop, and Grissom going to mix in, or is he going to get in there and play short?
I would be really surprised if that was the case. Like, I think he should be coming up to play. Like, I don't know how he gets better at defense, which is his one kind of issue, if he's not actually playing. So I can't imagine they're bringing him up to sit him on the bench. Maybe he doesn't play full time. Maybe he plays 4 out of 6 games a week. But I think he's playing pretty darn regularly if they're bringing him up. So I think he is a must pick up.
He's heavily rostered too, so it's going to be shallower formats where you're going to find Vaughn Grissom back out on the wire.
It's only available in one of my leagues.
Yeah, 88% at TGFBI, 96% in the main event. What's weird, and this is, I guess, dead teams, 29% and 36% started.
What?
Wow. Yeah. 29% in TGFBI, 36 in the main.
Maybe
Vaughn
because the
Grissom being started.
Friday pick or Friday moves.
Maybe.
People are already
I
expecting.
hope it's that, because otherwise, what are we doing, folks?
Yeah.
You're being clowns. 48% rostered at Yahoo, so a bit more of a coin flip availability there. So if you are in shower format, 10-12 team, how aggressively are you going after Grissom, assuming he is indeed called up?
Well, just like pitchers are all hurt, shortstops are all hurt too. Like my auction team that I'm doing really, really well in, I lost like Seager and Kyle Farmer on back-to-back days and don't have a shortstop for the weekend. So if he was available, which he is not available on that team, I would be really, really aggressive. I would be in that kind of triple digit range to try to get a guy that I think could be playing pretty regularly on a great team and has shown the ability to hit at the major league level. I mean, I'll pivot to, Edouard Julien. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think I would be pretty aggressive. Probably $50 plus, I think, is what you're looking at in a $1,000 FAB league for Vaughn Grissom.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely. He can be a bit of a game changer. Obviously, he's got power, speed. He didn't go down because he can't hit. That's the simple fact of it. It was all defense related. He held his own beautifully in a tiny sample at the major league last year. He's gone down to AAA and hasn't missed a beat. 1044 OPS with a homer and 2 steals in his 10 games at AAA so far. So yeah, you got to be aggressive on Grissom, particularly if you have direct need there and he is available. Cole Irvin was optioned by the Orioles. Of course, this is really more of a deep league thing. He's not drafted in a ton of shallower formats, but like AL only, deeper mixers he might. But it's not even so much directly related to Irvin because it's been pretty terrible too. So he's probably already cut anyway. It's what it means for the rest of the folks, namely Grayson Rodriguez. If you were worried, like, if he can't defeat Oakland, is he going to get sent back out? I think his spot is more secured with Kyle Bradish working his way back. I think he has a rehab start today. And then Tylor Wells sticking in the rotation when Bradish comes back as well. Because now if you take out Cole Irvin, I know Spencer Watkins, I believe, is coming up.
I think he's going to be a long man.
But yeah, I was going to say, I don't think he takes that job. I think they're going to go Gibson, Grayson, Kramer, Bradish, Wells. Those are the 5. So what do you think about, first off, I don't think we need to talk about Grayson, right? He's rostered. If he's playing, you're starting him pretty much, unquestionably. So I kind of want to focus a little bit more on Tylor Wells, who's now back in the rotation. Didn't get a spot out of camp. One of those guys that you might have overlooked him because the 4.25 ERA might have made you miss the 114 WHIP, which is pretty good. Only an 18% K rate, but he had an 11% swinging strike rate, which really makes you feel like he can have more of a low to mid 20s strikeout rate. Nothing crazy, but I think it could be in that, again, the shorthand on swinging strike rate is to double it for an expected strikeout rate. So he can be like 22% strikeout rate, which isn't too bad, especially if he doesn't walk guys, has a good whip. He's looked great so far. He filled in for Bradish, Tylor Wells did, right after he got hit in the foot. So that was his first big outing, which was essentially a start. He went 5 innings of no-hit ball. And then his first actual start was against the Yankees. 6 innings, 4 runs, 6 strikeouts, 0 walks. 4 runs in 6 innings is not a good ERA, but that's not a terrible outing against the Yankees. So Wells has looked good in 11 innings. With Irvin out, meaning that should secure Wells' spot with Bradish returning, is Wells somebody that you're looking at picking up?
I think he's what I would call a team streamer in deeper formats.
That's what you would call it? Is that what you made that phrase? I love that.
Did I say that I would call it?
You said it as though you made it up.
Oh,
no.
Around.
I'm teasing you.
I'm tired.
It's so early out there. You're the one who chooses 8 o'clock, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Well, I have to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning my time. So
subscribe to the Patreon so Justin can quit his day job.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Tylor Wells, team streamer. I do agree with that, by the way. Don't cut him. And all we mean by that is just a guy that you only stream him, but then you don't cut him back out into the pool and let other people get a chance at scooping him when you're not using Tylor Wells.
Yeah, because I mean he does tend to have homer problems.
Yes. With that control, again, going back to the control versus command, he fills the zone. He doesn't have the best command.
Yeah, so and then even with his park protecting him,
Yeah.
a fair amount, he still has a homer problem. He gave up 2 home runs in his first start against the Yankees. So like we know those command issues can still be there, but he is a really, really good pitcher when the command is working well for him. And we've seen extended stretches for Tyler Wells where he's able to have that command in check and be a productive starting pitcher. So I do think in deeper formats he is a team streamer, and in shallower formats he's a traditional streamer, a guy
Standard
that
streamer. Yep.
could probably just come off your roster when you're not starting him.
And let's see real quick. Next week, Tyler Wells is slated for. They only have 5 games. He gets Detroit, so I think he is a pickup everywhere right now because even with the traditional stream,
Yeah.
you're definitely streaming anybody against my sweet, sweet Tigers. God, they're so good at baseball. Such a joy to watch. Love them. You conjured up the name Edouard Julien earlier, referenced him, and he's called up for the Twins. Interesting prospect. We got to see it at the fall league. Big time OBP guy. If you're in OBP league, he's definitely on your radar. This dude takes his walks for sure, and he batted leadoff yesterday. So he's had 2 games, batted 8th, and then leadoff, both against righties too. So it wasn't like a righty lefty situation. He just got moved up on his very first day. He got promoted early. I don't know if he's going to consistently bat leadoff, but with his OBP, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to bat at the top of the order pretty regularly. He's an interesting fantasy guy because I don't know, if there's a ton of power. He does have some speed though to mix in with his decent power. I think we could see something really interesting here. He's not one of the bigger names out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Julien could make an impact. Do you think he's up for the long haul with the Twins? Edouard Julien, that's Edouard Julien.
I think he could be. It's hard because, like you said, this is a really weird, interesting profile. He is maybe the most passive hitter that we've seen come up from the minor leagues in a long time. We're talking like this guy has never had a walk rate below 19% at any level in the minor leagues, as long as you're not counting like the 30 plate appearance sample we just saw at AAA.
Yeah, only 18% at AAA this year. Hey, swinging's hard, man. He's not up there to swing.
He was in the home run derby at the Arizona Fall League, and I was sure he was going to take a walk. Like, it's just like...
Oh, we were all joking about that. Like, oh, yeah, he's definitely going to get like 5 walks here. Mm-hmm. And it was also interesting because he's not a traditional power guy. He was a little bit of an odd fit there. Not that he can't hit some bombs, and he did. He had a handful. But because... he is more of this like super patient top of the order guy who can get you a few bombs, but also can get you some steals. He's been double-digit steals everywhere as well. So I wonder if Julien could go double-double while scoring a bunch of runs on a solid Twins ball club.
He doesn't really I mean, I know he's stolen bases in the minor leagues, but he doesn't really profile as like a really fast guy. At least,
don't need speed right now.
Yeah, apparently not.
Actually, here's the thing: you never have actually needed true blinding speed or even great speed.
You need
if you're
good
a smart
instincts,
base runner, you can steal bases. So he is more of that guy than a burner. You're right. Like his speed grade is 40 on our sheet here for Edouard Julien. So it's like I agree with that. Worth pointing out, but with the rules the way they are right now, I could see him taking advantage.
I have a couple of stolen bases this year.
Do.
So.
Yeah. Well, you stole off Syndergaard though, so those barely count.
His swing has actually got some pop in it, and I think we saw it on display in spring training, and then last night when he hit his first major league home run. Like when he does swing and barrels of the ball, like it can go a far ways. I think Julian's biggest issue is defense. Is he going to play good enough defense to hold down that job? And the Minnesota Twins, unlike some other organizations, are an organization that really prioritizes good defense. We see it in the outfield with a lot of their guys. So if he can play well enough defensively at second base or maybe even first base, then I think Julien can stick. If he can't, then it doesn't matter how much he's getting on base. He's not going to stick around, or at least not play.
Donovan Solano's been playing first base in Joey Gallo's absence. I guess they don't want the 35-year-old Solano over at second because, I mean, he used to play some infield, back when he's kind of a utility type guy. Because you wonder if maybe a switch would be in order there, but I guess they don't really have. They're going with the younger guy and hoping that Julien can figure it out. Julien definitely strikes me as one of those guys who would have really benefited from the shifts that could have covered some of his defensive deficiencies. But now, obviously, with those limited, he's going to have to show a bit more range, or else he's going to be missing plays. But remember, he came up because Kyle Farmer got hit in the face. Very scary moment, by the way. That was so rough. He took all of it. So with Polanco and Farmer on the IL, that has created the opening for Julien. And yeah, he does need to play defense right now because again, DH is locked up by Buxton. They're playing Michael A. Taylor out there in center so that they don't miss a beat defensively. And if Solano's going to take first, then it does put some pressure on Julien. And I should point out, he gets a 30 grade on the fielding. So that is a deficiency and a worthy point.
He's very much like a modern day Daniel Murphy, though Murphy never walked that much, where he was good at his bat and let him play, but he wasn't good enough at any defensive position to like really be the guy at a defensive position, even when he was playing full time.
Exactly.
So, which is my fear for Julien, is that his defense is not good enough to keep him on the field.
Well, here's hoping that right now they just don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, Willie Castro is the only infielder that they have on the bench, Garlick and Wallner, and then Jeffers as the backup catcher. And Willie Castro can probably hold the position defensively, but he's not much of a hitter. So it's like the trade-off there. And so far, 2 starts for Julien. We'll keep an eye on it, see if he plays all 3 games on the weekend. I don't know if they have any lefties coming up or not because he is a left-hander, so there might be a situation where we'll see if he platoons with Willie Castro because that would also cut into the interest of him. They do have Nestor Cortez today, so we'll get some insight, at least for the short term. If he sits against a lefty, Julien does, that might give you some insight that he's defensively challenged and he's going to platoon. Maybe you temper your bids a bit. But offensively, I like him. I think it could be kind of interesting in 12s and up. Kenta Maeda is going to have his start skipped, and looks like they're going to have a spot start today for Louis Varland. I think this is just, Maeda returning from TJ, 35 years old, extensive injury history. Is there anything actionable for it with you, though, with regards to Maeda getting skipped? Oh, and also, do you like Louis Varland at all?
I don't really care about Louis Varland that much, but this is definitely a little bit concerning about Maeda. Like, considering he kind of left that first start with the arm fatigue, he's coming off a TJ. Now we're only 3 starts into the season. They're skipping a start. I think at best you're looking at a guy who's going to be heavily managed.
But surely you had to know that it wasn't going to be a traditional season for Maeda coming in.
All the analysts out there were telling us that they're just going to let him go. He's a free agent at the end of the season. He's 35 years old. No, I did not say that.
That sounds exactly like something you would say
from Kenta Maeda.
I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. I don't recall what people were saying or even what I was saying, but
I do. I'm not going to call them out by name, but I remember who they were.
Okay, but they were never just going to what does letting him go mean? 120 innings? The one thing about Kenta Maeda is he doesn't go deep. So if that was the piece of advice, people should have known to never take that for anything more than okay, well then maybe he gets to the 130 innings that he can pitch. You knew with the price that. Again, I think this is covered in the price too, though.
I think it was
so cheap. So I don't know.
It's frustrating. This is especially if you're down a starter or 2 already.
Don't draft TJ guys.
You shouldn't.
I know you don't. We talk about it all the time. I almost exclusively don't. Verlander was an exception I made because he's Verlander. He's a unicorn. He's a true ace. But and somebody like Turnbull, who I did like with the 18-month layoff, thinking that he might come back and be a bit more.
Turnbull looked better last night.
Susceptible. He did look better, but I think even he, with the bigger layoff, it's not like they're immune. I just feel like they can have a longer leash with things.
The problem is anytime a unicorn does what unicorns do, everybody goes, well, now we can start doing this with everybody. And so
that's insane.
I know, but it happens all the time, right? Ronald Acuna comes up and just crushes from the get-go, and now every prospect's going to succeed. A guy like
not even just
Verlander.
Acuna, but last year's rookie class in general,
Yeah.
I think put
We've had a few rookie classes in general that like have come up and been like, just great from the get-go. But then everybody's like, well, then every top prospect's going to succeed. And we forget that the majority of prospects are more like Jared Kelenic when he first came up than they are like, Julio Rodriguez. So
how's Jared Kelenic doing so far?
He's doing pretty well. I'm loving it, but I'm still, as much as I jokingly took a April victory lap on Twitter, I'm
tweeted that you are messing
whatever,
with the gods,
like,
man.
I'm having fun. Like, it's fantasy. What I tweeted right after, which is like, if you think it's stupid to take an April victory lap, it's also stupid to play a game about virtual fantasy managers of a virtual fantasy baseball team competing against other virtual fantasy managers of fantasy baseball.
Sure.
Like, the whole premise is stupid anyways. So why not just have fun with it?
There is having fun, but there's also like declaring rights and wrongs after small samples when all we talk about is like,
is anybody taking me seriously? Like, just in general, is anybody taking me seriously? Much less in this.
That tweet will get thrown back in your face if he flops. I'm just saying, like, listen. I know like superstitions are fun too. I don't want to tempt the baseball gods and start taking start trying to take dubs. Nick Senzel's activated for the Reds. That do anything for you?
I want to see how much he's actually playing through the weekend. Is he going to be playing full time? Like, there is still talent somewhere in the corpse of Nick Senzel, but like it's still a corpse at this point. Like,
started center field yesterday. Batted
against
6th.
the lefty,
against the lefty. Good to point that out. He is a right-hander. Let's see what their schedule looks like this weekend. They get Philly. They're continuing with Philly. It's a 4-game set, so they get right, left, right. Walker, Strom, Nola. So what if he starts all 4?
If he starts all 4, I'm going to be really, really interested. But at this point, we're just picking up Nick Senzel based on his prospect pedigree. Like, he's done nothing at the major league level at this point to warrant us.
Didn't he have a good first season?
First half of a first good season. Yeah, exactly.
104 games, 12 steals, 12 homers, 14 steals. But again, that's 2019.
Yeah,
it's been a
rabbit
long
ball
time,
year,
and it was a bad WRC plus. Like, it was a bad line. It was just some fantasy juice. He had an 87 WRC plus. His career WRC plus is 73 for Nick Senzel. 1,000 plate appearances.
So at this point, we're just like hoping that he can find something, but I'm not banking on it, and I'm likely, unless he has like a really big weekend, I'm not picking him up. Probably
it's a single-digit bid for me.
Yeah,
single-digit bid at most. I have 6 IL'd guys. I can't afford.
Yeah, I've got a couple teams where and the thing is, when you have teams where you're decimated by injuries, what you need more than anything else are guys that play. And so if he's not playing in all 4 games, then you're probably not registering on my team.
Exactly. So keep an eye on Senzel, see what happens on the weekend. Of course, if he goes out, hits a couple homers, steals a bag, that price is going to go through the roof. So then maybe you want to pause because of that. So we'll see. I root for him, but I'm with you. It's single digits, even in the deeper formats. Even if he has a big weekend, it's single digits for me. And if somebody wants to pay big, have fun. Let's talk some 2-steps next week, see if we're starting them. Merrill Kelly and Drey Jameson, this is probably more for shallow formats. I think in deep formats, you're definitely starting these guys. But they both get at St. Louis and home to San Diego. Merrill Kelly, he had to face the Dodgers twice to start the year. That's a tough draw. And Jameson back in the rotation, immediately getting a 2-step here. How do you feel about these guys in 12s and below? Because again, I think 15s and up, you're easily starting Kelly.
I'm probably staying away from both of them just because the matchups are so tough. I mean, the Cardinals look really, really good. The Padres are really, really good at the top of that lineup. I'm probably not messing with it. I just feel like this is you could get destroyed in 1 start, or you could get destroyed in 2 starts. And if I'm starting guys who are a little bit questionable, which I think both these guys are, outside of 15-team leagues, I want to feel pretty good about at least one of the starts, and I don't feel good about either of these starts.
The tough part is and we talked about it, like there's nothing on the wire though. So I want to go on some guys that I can actually feel somewhat good about their skills, and I definitely feel that's the case with Drey Jameson. I'm a big fan of his. Merrill Kelly, he's kind of is who he is, and I'm a little bit concerned that he has 4 walks in each of his first 3 starts. Again, he got the Dodgers twice and then Milwaukee, and he only gave up 1 hit against Milwaukee, so the 4 walks didn't sting as much as far as the whip. But yeah, 12 walks now and 15 in the third. That's kind of bizarre for Kelly. I don't know. I think they're definitely in the upper third quarter of my list of streamers for this weekend in shallower formats, and I think I would go for Jameson specifically, and I'm a little bit more tepid on Kelly because of the walks and the 2 teams that he's facing. What about, Chris Sale and Corey Kluber? They get the Angels and at Milwaukee. I mean, again, I think with Sale, 12s and lower, because I think in 15s you have to, right? I mean, is there a world where you're sitting him in a 15, Chris Sale?
I mean, I think it depends on my other options, but probably not at this point. I mean, I think
unless you dropped the best pitching in the world, you get shit to,
unless you got really lucky at the back end of your rotation, you're probably in a position where you've got to start Chris Sale. I do not feel good about it though. Like
me neither.
I haven't watched his start yet from yesterday, but he's not looked good yet. So maybe this is just early season. Don't like the cold, or I don't know, but. Right now,
was in a dome, so I don't give a shit about the cold.
I'm feeling pretty good that there was always somebody in my draft that liked him more than me, even though I liked him. Like I'm not gonna pretend like I wasn't advocating for Chris Sale, because I was. I just never ended up with, or didn't end up with him in a lot of my kind of later leagues, which are my big money leagues. So, I think you're probably rolling with him, but this could be painful.
I agree, and it's tough, And it in
10 to 12s, you should not be starting him.
Benching him? Or are you cutting?
Yeah, I'm probably benched. I think in a 10 you can cut him. Like in a 12 I'm probably benching.
I know it's still Chris Sale, and it's still 3 starts. I don't know if I'm ready to cut yet in a 10. Really depends on who I'm picking up. Like, would you cut him for Bradley? To hold Bradley in a 10?
If I knew Bradley was getting a start, I would.
Oh, I would not do that, even if I knew that. I think that's a little much. What about Kluber? All formats?
I'm not starting him in any format.
Okay. I think that's completely fair. I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
My boy, Hayden Wesneski is off to a rough start. At Oakland and Dodgers, though. So 1 great, 1 bad. I do think this is the classic. If you can't start him in a 2-step, then he's a cut this weekend.
Especially when one of them's at Oakland.
That's what I'm saying. And I know the other's at the Dodgers. But if you can't do this.
The Dodgers aren't the offense that they were. So, like, I mean, it's not like this is like a guaranteed blow up. It definitely could be, because, I mean, Max Muncy has started to get
they're
really good all of a sudden.
Again, let's not pretend that they're bad. They aren't the supercharged, right? We've said things like they're not the Avengers or whatever, but they're still very good and still scary. But you have an at Oakland here that hopefully Hayden Wesneski can get right there. Like that's the best remedy.
They're like the Avengers at the beginning of Endgame. There's like, they're still pretty good, but like half of the
they've been damaged.
Half the team has like turned into sand and blown away.
Spoiler alert, dude.
Oh, no, sorry.
I'm kidding. So, Wesneski struggled in Cincy, and I was like, okay, that's all right. First off, you know how I feel about Cincy's offense and going there. I'm like, okay, they haven't been killing it yet, but that's still a tough place to go. And I watched that start, and I was like, okay, he wasn't great, but I wasn't really daunted by that. But then he got absolutely mollywopped by the Cubs. And yes, by the Mariners. He's on the Cubs. He got off the hook a bit by 5 of the runs being unearned. But it wasn't one of these where the team screwed him type of deal. He allowed 9 base runners in an inning in the third. And yeah, the wind was blowing out, and maybe that caused some of the errors. I actually didn't get to watch that one. I only watched the first start with Wesneski. But it was really, really bad. And so you got 2 really bad starts here. But I think if you still got him in 15s and you believe in him, you start him this week, or you make a cut and you start picking up some of these other guys that we're going to talk about, or other guys that are on your wire. That's where I'm at. I do think he is that classic. If you can't do this 2-step, you might as well just move on.
he's fallen behind in counts, which is really killing him because it becomes more predictable when people know that he's got to come back into the zone. He's got a 45% first pitch strike rate. That's got to change. He needs to get more aggressive early in counts, try to steal strikes in order to set up pitches later on in the at bat.
I think that's a great point, and we saw that from Wesneski last year and in spring, and he's had issues so far. It's only been 2 starts. It's a guy I loved. I'm sticking with him. I'm starting him where I've got him. I understand if you're not though and you're moving on, just be committed to the move though, and say okay, I'm getting off this train early. Hunter Gaddis is not particularly special or anything, but it's at Detroit and Miami. So deep leagues at Detroit, home to Miami. It's deep leagues where you're scraping and you really can't find anything. How do you feel about a Hunter Gaddis stream here?
Oh man, I don't feel good about it, but like I can understand like taking the gamble on Gaddis in deep performance because the matchups are so good. But like there's not much in the profile that tells you like, hey, this is a guy that's gonna like really go out there and shove for you. You're not gonna get a ton of strikeouts to begin with, and then bad teams can still sometimes hit. Like we see it all the time. Like
especially if you give them free passes, which I know that's not Gaddis's issue, but I feel like you were kind of referencing like Grayson Rodriguez walking the A's a bunch, and then they got to him. Yeah, like. I think I echo everything you say. If you're looking for a stream and your wire is barren, I get it because these are 2 good matchups. And if you look at the 3 starts that Gaddis has made, he got beat up by the Yankees and the Mariners, 2 good teams, and then he worked over the A's big time. 1 hit, 6 innings of scoreless ball. These are A's level type teams with the Marlins and the Tigers. So I think you take the shot. He should definitely be in your list if you need some pitching. I doubt you have too much available on your wire. I think Gaddis at least makes the list, doesn't have to be at the top.
He's giving up a 92% zone contact. That is a lot of contact.
I mean, he got blasted by the Yankees and the Mariners. Again, so 2 good teams torched Gaddis, and he torched a bad team. These are bad teams. You are holding your nose if you do it, though. If you miss out on your first X number of guys and you end up with Gaddis, you're like, dang. Well, here's hoping the matchups. This is how streaming works, though. You take advantage of matchups. That's what you're going for here. That could be the case here with this other one, too. This guy's a bit more established, don't get me wrong, but Kyle Freeland, because he pitches in Colorado, is scary. But he gets Pittsburgh at home and then a trip to Philly. I'd feel better if the trip was somewhere else. But where do you come out on Freeland as a potential deep league streamer?
He's pitched really, really, really well so far, and I still can't do it. Like I just still can't. Freeland still is a Rockies pitcher. The other start isn't in a great spot, anyways. I just feel like this feels like a trap, right? It's like that gif from the newer Mad Max movie where Tom Hardy's all like, "That's bait."
That's bait.
Nah,
or the what is it? The Star Wars thing. It's a trap.
Yeah,
I don't know the characters in Star Wars. Sorry,
Admiral Akbar
or something.
Yeah, Admiral.
I'm proud of myself on that one. Sorry, I don't know all those. But yeah, 6 innings plus in all of his starts. Trip to San Diego looked great. 2 home starts, 1 against Washington, 1 against St. Louis. I think I'm putting him in the list, but it's obviously going to be lower because it is Colorado for Kyle Freeland. Him or Freeland or Gaddis. You're not even putting him in the list, are you?
I don't think either Freeland or Gaddis are going to end up in a lot of my lists, just because I think I'd rather have 1 start I feel good about than 2 starts I don't feel good about.
I mean, I get it, but it's a barren wasteland out there. Especially we're talking 15 teams for Freeland. I'm not even looking for him in 12.
Yeah, no, 10s and 12s. You should be ignoring both these guys. But yeah, no,
15s. I think Freeland has to make the list unless you just have a blessed wire. Like, okay, here's a quickie here. The aforementioned Spencer Turnbull, who looked good in his last outing at least.
Turnbull.
Okay. Turnbull against Cleveland versus Freeland for 2?
Absolutely. Cleveland does not look good offensively. And
okay, well, wait. Fair enough on that. And I like that you're talking a Tiger up pretty nicely. Freeland is like, I think he's better than you're giving him credit for right now.
I think he is too, but
The brilliant season is years ago, 2018. So let's move that away.
Coors. I'm not messing
Streaming.
with Coors.
It's Pittsburgh. You know what this is? Wait a minute. I know exactly what this is.
I accidentally left Jack Flaherty in my main event lineup, even though I got so lucky, and I feel like I've used all my good Coors juju up already. And I'm not messing
the year I won my league, I purposely started Wainwright and Coors as kind of like it was a gut read type of thing. I channeled my roto gut, and I was like, I don't know, man, he's dealing right now. I'm gonna go for this. It was early enough that I felt like if he faltered, I'd be okay. And same type of vibe where I was like, okay, I survived this. I need to be careful with my big risks. But I know exactly what this is. This is because you still think that Pirates offense is awesome, and so you think that the home
not
start
as
is scary.
awesome now without. I thought you said Philadelphia.
Pittsburgh at home.
Oh,
Pittsburgh is the Coors start, and then a trip to Philly.
Oh, okay.
So this is because you think Pittsburgh's going to roll them at home.
I just think Coors will roll them.
I know. Listen, it's Coors, and I always talk about. I mean,
early season Coors is not as bad as mid season Coors, but
that's why I'm open to do. I don't know. He's pitching so well. I just don't think you can be that picky in 15s, personally. So it's like it's more of.
I'd rather start a middle reliever.
That's just a bad take, I think.
Give me Zach Jackson, who I think might be the next closer.
Yeah, but he might be the closer, exactly. That's a little bit different than just like a standard middle reliever who, pitching the 5th and 6th inning.
I'll find somebody. I'll show you. I'll show you my bids before Fab runs.
Okay. This is a shallower play as well because it's David Peterson and Tylor Megill. Their 15-team starts, but they get a really tough West Coast swing at LA and at the Giants. I know the Giants aren't killing it, but you get the Dodgers and the Giants, 2 on the road. How do we feel about David Peterson and Tylor Megill in 12s and lower?
I feel a little bit.
Or do you disagree with the 15-team automatic start?
I think 15-team, they're probably automatic starts, but obviously depending on what the rest unless you're blessed. Yeah. I feel a little bit better about Megill than I do about Peterson. The Giants hit lefties pretty well. Okay. So I'm a little bit, and they just got Darren Ruff back, baby.
Now things start kicking
Ruff,
in high
just
gear.
the way your mother likes it.
Just the way your mother likes it, Trebek.
I feel a little bit better about Megill than I do Peterson, but I think both these guys are in play. Even in your 12-team leagues, if you're running low on options, like I'd start both these guys over Freeland, over Gaddis.
I think even 12s or 10s where you're streaming. If you're streaming in 10s, I think that Megill and Peterson are in the mix.
Again, the Dodgers aren't the Dodgers of old. Like they have holes in that lineup. That we're not used to seeing them. They're still pretty good.
Wait a minute. You're gonna get tweets on this. They're second in WRC plus.
Are they really?
Yeah, wow. They are still.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, it is still the Dodgers.
The kids are playing well, and so are the grandpas they got.
Yeah.
Freaking Jason Hayward popping off. Trace Thompson doing it again somehow. He's been their best hitter by OPS plus. And Outman and Vargas, the youngsters, are playing well. So they really are. Like it's not the name value.
The hard part too is the Dodgers are really good against lefties, too. Yeah, so I probably wouldn't start Peterson. I think Megill I still would start, but I probably wouldn't start.
Yeah, because Peterson gets both teams you say there are better against lefties with the Dodgers and the Giants. And by the way, the Giants are 6th in WRC plus. Now that's something where, hang on, let me look real quick before I say it. Oh no, they're actually 5th in WOBA. I was wondering if maybe because WRC Plus is scaled to their environment, maybe because they play in a home park, because sometimes you'll see, the Rockies are 18th in WRC Plus, but they're 3rd in WOBA because the Coors penalty. Mm-hmm. Not the case with the Giants. The Giants are actually just hitting well. So these are a little dodgy. They're on good team with the Mets, so that helps with the win potential. But there's probably going to be Kelly, Jameson, one of the Diamondbacks or one of the Dodgers. I mean, one of the Mets.
One of the Mets.
Really?
Yeah.
I still think I have Drey above them both.
I think that is just your personal affinity for Drey.
Well, yeah, I mean it is, but like at St. Louis, home to San Diego is better to me than at LA and at San Francisco. That's a
I
scary
don't
two-step.
I don't think it's any scarier than San Luis and San Diego.
I think
San
it's
Diego's better than San
markedly
Francisco. St. Louis
scarier.
is better than the Dodgers.
I don't know. I mean, San Diego has been underwhelming. St. Louis is up there, top five
Yeah,
WRC plus, but
St.
San
Louis is
Diego's
arguably the best lineup in baseball. Uh,
or the
yeah,
Dodgers.
I mean, I don't think they're like, I don't think it's like a clear like cut. Like, I think you can make the argument either way, but I think I'd rather go with the Mets guys.
These Mets could burn you. Be careful. They're both walking a bunch of guys too. Clarke Schmidt gets the Angels and Toronto. It's just an interesting situation where if like you watching Clarke Schmidt, you seeing aspects of like how it's working well at times, but then it all falls apart. Like you'll see quality at
hmm
bats and quality strings of 3, 4, 5, 6 at bats in a row, but then he just gets got, and it's wound up being pretty bad thus far. 10 2/3 across 3 starts, bad ERA, bad ratios. But any love for Clarke Schmidt here? You taking the gamble while his price is down, or are you out on Clarke Schmidt?
A combination of him and Cole Irvin ruined my perfect streaming record on the road to write up
Oh man,
the last 2 days. So I feel maybe I'm feeling a little bit burnt, but I'm starting to wonder if Clarke Schmidt should just be a reliever. Like maybe he shouldn't be a starter. Maybe he just can't go deep enough into games where and keep his stuff intact. So I'm probably skipping Clarke Schmidt.
yeah, I am too. And again, Angels and Toronto not necessarily all that easy either. And I know the Angels aren't exactly popping off, but anytime you got two of the very best players in the league, and it's not just those two. Like they've got some other good players as well. And they're actually better than I thought. They're eighth in WRC plus, so I undersold them a bit. And then Toronto, I'm not exactly geeked to face them either. They're fourth, so this is a pretty tough two-step. Clarke Schmidt pass for me in deeper leagues. Bailey Falter gets the White Sox at the White Sox at home to Colorado. How do we feel about Bailey Falter?
I think I'm going with this one. I think Falter can pitch pretty well at times, and I like these matchups. You're talking about the Chicago White Sox that are missing two of its best players in Eloy and Tim Anderson, and it doesn't. I don't know if Moncada is even going to play this weekend. So, and then you're getting the Rockies away from Coors Field. Yeah, sign me up for this one.
Yeah, I think this is a really nice one here with Bailey Falter. He hasn't really started missing any bats in his 15 innings of work, but he's walking nobody, literally a
Yeah,
2% walk rate right now. So there's lots to like. And if he starts to tick up the strikeouts a bit, and he's not like a huge K guy, but he can be a low 20s percent. He's at 15% right now, so you can get a few extra Ks from Falter. I think this is one of the more intriguing ones that we've got. And what about in like 12s as well? You think
I
Falter?
think yeah,
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you can roll with it.
All right, and then what about Alex Wood? Again, I think he's another one where we're talking shallower formats. Definitely starting him. Henry wants to go outside. I think there's definitely some starts, automatic starts, essentially, if you have him rostered in 15 teamers. And he's basically fully rostered. So I think that's easy for at Miami, home to the Mets. But what about 12s and below for Alex Wood? Is he somebody that you would stream?
Yeah, absolutely would. He looked really good in his last start. And you gotta love the Miami matchup, and I'm not as scared of the Mets matchup until they start bringing up their young guys who are tearing it up in AAA, but not on their major league rosters. So, yeah, I think I'm rolling with Alex Wood in most 12s and even some 10s.
Yeah, I think this is a viable stream here. You get a great start with the Miami one, and then, like you said, you take a chance against the Mets. It's definitely not easy to face the Mets, but I do think Alex Wood has the skills to stand up to any. When Alex Wood is on, he does the matchup doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Like he
yeah,
can beat
exactly.
the best teams. He's a good pitcher. You just worry about the health and getting through games
And
consistently.
and the Giants' weird platooning of their
And
starting
oh my
pitchers.
God, their weird pitching platooning, like we saw Stripling out of the bullpen again the other day, and of course that dreadful defense is always scary. But
Yeah,
I do like this two-step here because it's not a very deep week. That's it. Those are the guys. You got the two D-backs, you got Hayden Wesneski, you got the two Mets, you got some Falter, Wood. A little bit of love for Wesneski, I think in 12s and above if you're bought in on him earlier. Sale, you're holding your nose, and then again, I'm more in on Freeland than you, but no Clarke Schmidt, don't do that. Hunter Gaddis, you're trying to avoid that. Deeper leagues, if you get stuck with it, sure. And Kluber, we don't really like anywhere, right? That was
Yeah.
definitive that we're out on him. Yeah, he just doesn't look
Yeah.
that good. Great pitcher overall, had a wonderful career, but not fantasy viable.
Now he's just cashing a check.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he can still be like a major league pitcher. He's just not fantasy viable anymore. So, all right, Justin, I'll talk to you later. Are you doing anything this weekend with Jason?
I believe we are, so we should be rolling.
Excellent. All right, man. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.